Hello, everybody. You see, we are here, some of us, i dobar dan. Dobar dan, dobrodošli u emisiju koju smo nazvali LIT, koja ima nekakve mogućnosti o kojoj ćemo razgovarati na jedan drugačiji način. Prvi razlog zašto ćemo drugačije razgovarat ćemo na engleskom, jer imamo i engleske govornike i imamo i one koji su sa engleskog govornog područja izvan Hrvatske. So I'm going to switch to English. This is a R+ collaboration with LIT, and not to make or to cut the long story short, I'm gonna just welcome on R+ as a new platform where this talk is happening, and hopefully we will have a successful talk. I will ask our co-speakers, people who are welcoming you on this talks. I'm gonna go, ladies go first. Sanja Kisiček, hello. Then we have our also dear friend Andreas. Hello.
Great to be with you.
And the man who I will hopefully ask him to be more than just a speaker, but some kind of co-host, Luka Knezic.
Hello. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you very much for joining me today. And actually, it was a great initiative to have this kind of talk, and I hope that the numbers will keep rising bigger as we start and talk about the topic, which I think it's very important for not only for Croatia, but for region, but this part of Europe where we are living, doing our business in new era, because we can call it new era. 2020 was like a new era to all of us. But Luka, can you start to explain us what is LIT philosophy about?
Okay. First of all, thank you, Robert, for the introduction. And I would love you guys who are joining us to write in the chat, where are you from? Where are you coming from? Where are you joining us from? So I know which locations are you from, and just to break the ice, because we like to make those calls interactive. Please ask questions, talk about your experience, share your insights, and communicate. So the idea of organizing LIT, it's called Local Innovation Calls. Started in 2020, actually. We organized 2 successful workshops with the Croatian Chamber of Commerce, with great people there who saw the opportunity very early. We talked about remote work and what's going on in 2020 that will change the world forever. Where are the opportunities here? And this is an extension of what we did in July 2020. And it's called Local Innovation Talk because we bring what we learn from what is going on globally that is not as available as it should be in the mainstream media, and we bring it locally to, for example, Croatia now, so that we can use it locally and make our lives in 2021 better. For me, I noticed in 2020 I got a lot of successful people around me, and for example, Sanja, Robert, and Andreas are some of them. And I was lucky to talk to Andreas in 2020 in February about what was going on in the world, and was quick to react in my business and my life to what was going on. And I see that the world never collaborated like this before, and it was never as connected as before, because physical meetings were replaced by video calls, like we're having it right now. It wouldn't be possible to meet us all at the same place at the same time that easily, and that's why you know, Sanja is an expert here about collaboration. I met Sanja, who is very energetic, full of energy, very positive, great smile, stands out from the average completely, and together with her whole family. And she's an expert in collaboration and education. And because the world collaborated in 2020 like never before, and Sanja is an expert, I would like Sanja to take over for a bit.
Thank you, Luka. And hello, everyone. Yeah, as Luka said it, I'm pretty much into collaboration, and I like to label myself as a change catalyst. I enjoy and all the changes that 2020 has brought about. And my approach is, I would dare say, a healthy mix of drive and passion and modesty and relentless optimism. I would say I enjoy spreading the aura of possibility, creativity, and pragmatic simplicity. Just last night, I looked at my LinkedIn post, and one of my recent connections, Frederick Miller, commented on one of my posts yesterday, saying, and he's a thought leader on collective leadership, and he was saying, thank you, Sanya, for sharing the article and for being a force for change in the world. A force for change in the world. Wow, that sounded pretty impressive. I thought that sounded pretty impressive, and I was honored to read that comment on my behalf. However, what Mr. Miller yet does not know is that I tend to create far more content of my own than sharing the one that's already there. And how I met Andreas is also the story from the LinkedIn world. And Andreas put Luca and me in touch, and soon enough, we realized that we had the same understanding of the same understanding and different experience on these topics that we bring in front of you today. And also another content of mine, also from LinkedIn, published this, saying, if my audience knew what I know, they would absolutely thrive. If they knew what I know, they would absolutely thrive. And I thought to myself, this is it. This is exactly why I'm doing this stuff. If my people knew what I know, they would thrive. And that's what I want to share, all that I know and learn what I don't know. And what I know boils down to collaboration, collective leadership, education, and communication. So you will have figured it out by now that my life in 2020 was pretty much LinkedIn, right? Sounds funny, but I've made so many valuable connections on LinkedIn in 2020, and I've attended so many conferences and established new friendships, more than I have in any year where I traveled the most, like more than a couple of years altogether. And definitely the biggest asset for me in the year 2020 was family time. So first time 5 years ago, my family and I, we moved to the Middle East. We left my beautiful Croatia after having juggled between more than one job, more than a couple of jobs each, my husband and I, actually, to make a decent living. We went to hunt for family time. We went to work in the Middle East. And our greatest asset then was family time, because we could afford to come home at 3:00 p.m. and we work empty-headed and devote our energies only to each other. Then I thought this was impossible to ever happen again. We were already back in Croatia, and half a year back into the country, there were lockdowns, all the pandemic, and it happened even to those proportions of family time skyrocketed hugely. So we were together even more than when we left Croatia in the Middle East. So basically, we enjoyed that family time. We prepared healthy food together. We were active. We could do sports together. We connected on a different level. So we learned how to play different instruments. So now we are on our way to becoming the new Kelly family in our home. So on the private scene, there has a lot of positive things that were happening and that boosted our lifestyle. And what I'm saying was a great boost to work lifestyle is transparency, and collaboration thrives on transparency and forward. With communication just being out there, black and white, digitalized, it's harder to pretend. And I think that the beauty is in the unknown. If we do not know all the answers, especially after we were paralyzed and shocked with all the changes, and then if we admit to ourselves and to each other that we do not know, we show that we are vulnerable, we show empathy with each other, then we can collectively build solutions that work for all of us. So that's what I think, that's the major shift that happened with remote work. Work just became more transparent, and the grounds for collaboration they always believed in, that I always knew was key, were all of a sudden just out there almost over the night. I saw collaboration as the new normal design of life and work. And yeah, Andreas, I would like to welcome Andreas and thank you, Andreas, for putting us all together and for putting us in touch and for initiating this beautiful local innovation talk new project. Would you like to add on more to that?
Sure, my pleasure. My exposure to Croatia has been limited and started in 2017. 2020, I was on a visit in Croatia and experienced the first lockdown and the first earthquake in my life. And then that was followed by a whole bunch of intensive weeks where I started to appreciate the experience of that neighborhood operating in the context of an emergency. So that was one of the best experiences I had in my life so far. 2020, looking back, yes, it triggered me to initiate what we are experiencing today, because I think there is a very important, there's a vacuum of exceptional brains being transparent and open about what can happen, and to address subjects which literally can, in a positive sense, lit up Croatia and the entire Balkan neighborhood. So I believe creating a life-boosting experience is highly relevant and is what the country and the neighborhood needs. Being shaken up by multiple earthquakes in such a short time frame, I think it's very relevant to look at the bright side, look at the opportunity as a result of people not taking anything for granted of what happened in the last 12 months. So I called it the innovation pandemic year, because people who have told me that things like video are difficult, that working remotely is difficult, probably all realize that it in practice is boosting people's wealth, people's health, and people's happiness in many, many circumstances. And the experience I had with collaborating with somebody like Luca for a few years right now, that there is a generation in Croatia which, as soon as you connect them remotely to international opportunities, can actually be the change agents of an entire neighborhood. So this is why the logical consequence was to build a small team of people who are internationally well connected and who are ready to bring that know-how and do-how to a neighborhood which allows more Lucas, so the generation of the 20-year-old and younger, to connect to international people, to international opportunities, and not necessarily have to move, but to pursue those opportunities remotely. That is the bigger picture scenario from my perspective. So lighting up the Balkan and lighting up Croatia in a positive, constructive manner is, I hope, the outcome of what lit talks can bring for everybody. And the team which we assembled like Robert, who I consider a friend over the last years, and always very controversial dialogues where we rarely agree, but of positive mind-stretching perspective, are helpful. And he's always my benchmark for integrity when it comes to the Croatian neighborhood. So I always try to find people who are as passionate about the neighborhood and who are as willing to operate for a better tomorrow and to pursue that. So what I see is an innovation pandemic year last year, which has lit up the neighborhood in many, many ways, and doing it in a positive way moving forward. If we look at the global context, we have right now a renaissance of people taking self-responsibility. We never, in the last 100 years, had as many people starting their own projects. We had a 40% increase of people starting their own businesses compared to the years before. So this is really what they, in the French Renaissance perspective, is kind of a rebirth, which is highly needed. And if I see what in Croatia happened with, as an example, the Croatia 2.0 initiative, which seems to be the largest initiative so far when you look at the number of people who joined it. It's an example for that. And again, it happened in the year which I believe is probably best summarized as an innovation pandemic with a lot of rebirth features.
Yes, and thank you, Andras, for sharing your insights. And from my perspective, the thing that changed my life is learning a lot about, for example, how to work from anywhere, how to get clients from anywhere from the world, how to connect with different people over video, how to live the life that you want without limitations and the political climate, the government, or the place you live in, your nationality or language, without limitations. And I think 2020 is bringing that reality closer for everyone. And I think people who are changing the fastest are going to understand that quickly. And that was my motivation in starting local innovation talks. And I've met so many people who have changed their life, who live in Croatia, work from Croatia, and being able to travel from Croatia, or for example in Malta, where I'm right now, and do something big from their home, from their nature, from their office, from wherever they want. I think it's life-changing, and it can change the whole neighborhood. There were a lot of interesting articles that we have shared throughout the year about how actually Croatians are very well educated. Their digital skills are at the top of the world. Croatia has about 80% of people who can speak 2 languages, and it's English that is the most popular one. And there is no reason for us to be limited by a smaller market. I think everybody can reach out to, depending whatever you are doing, you can find a way how to connect to somebody from across the world and start working on what you love, what you enjoy doing, and just change your life completely in a different way that you are used to live. And that's what I will focus my talks on, local innovation talks.
Thank you, Luka. You saying that Croats are very well educated and very smart people reminds me of a scenario from my life when my former supervisor, the superintendent, a Northern American person from my school, he approached me one day and said, "So you are one of the smartest, most educated people in Croatia." He read an article basically about how Croats are really well educated, and then said, "Well, yes, but where'd you get that from?" And he said, "I read in the newspaper. What are you doing here then? Why aren't you back home?" And then it struck me. It's one of those moments where I felt my patriotic side come to surface and really be stronger than any financial or any other aspect that my life benefited from by leaving Croatia. And it waited it out, and soon enough we rejected the renewal of the contract and came back. And now in 2020 to realize that this work that I am doing can be really done from anywhere. Like you, Luka, you're in Malta, yet you're enthusiastically, energetically collaborating on projects as LIT, as Local Innovation Talks, as we are doing now, and you want to add again to your country and the whole region, the whole neighborhood. What I learned while I was away from the region is something that I always believed in, and it's collaboration, as I said, and that drive, that collective leadership to make a positive change, to make a difference, to make something better. And I always had it pretty vaguely in my head. I didn't know the strategies or the techniques, the protocols, how to help somebody else or a group of people to implement that and to make the best out of it. So performing the role of an instructional coach at an international school, I learned all those strategies and techniques that are applicable to any sphere of human interaction, even to private scenarios. So sometimes people ask me, but why would we collaborate? Why do we need this collegiality? What do we have from it? Like, isn't it easier to just listen and follow along and listen as we are told to? Of course, it's easier, but we know that what's easier isn't necessarily better. The collaborative, collegial approach really improves communication, both at work and at home. And by getting most out of our relationships in general, that means that we are not patronizing anyone. We are not giving unsolicited advice. We are not demanding action based on authority. We simply implement, I call it collaboration by design, to have everyone equally participate in the decision-making process while we are at our best, focusing on our strengths, focusing on other people's strengths, not competing with each other, but taking the best out of each other and relying on each other. So to establish this culture of collaboration, we need to increase this leadership capacity among all stakeholders. And how is this done? Again, we are going back to this question. In my design of the collaboration model, it's done by a progressive communication based on coaching skills that are integrated into conversation. And I have a feeling that this whole opportunity with remote work and 2020 digitalization has enabled collaboration, as I see it, to happen, because we've all been shocked and paralyzed, and we've naturally just opened up for vulnerability and empathy. So we could finally stop and pause and listen to one another and show respect, and what we've heard, put it back at the person, paraphrase it in our own words, maybe to demonstrate active listening, so that we show that we are on the same page, that we understand what the person is saying. And after we did this, we could then question the person, ask how they feel about this, what they think about this or that. And we could then ask alternative questions, like probing questions, to push the person's thinking in other ways, in other horizons, to help them come to their conclusions in a more sustainable way. Like before, we used to put a lot of stress on cooperation, and that's often something that's perceived as obsolete, where people are engaged by being compliant and by being following along and listening to what their supervisors tell them to do. While in collaboration, everybody becomes equal collaborators as co-creators of the solutions. So as an educator, I base everything I do on the constructivist learning theory, which states that we learn through experience and engagement, meaning that we cannot learn passively by observing and taking orders and guidelines, but by being actively engaged. So if we learn the techniques and strategies and protocols that support collaboration and that support collegial dialogue, we are then able to establish cohesion within a working environment. And this cohesion works even in dealing with uncomfortable conversations, with dealing with courageous conversations, with coming up with consensus, with agreeing to disagree. It becomes very powerful, yet is grounded or very, very simple, pragmatic techniques. So that's what I'm really passionate about. And I have a feeling that now everybody in my country became more open to it. Like the mindsets are intrinsically shifting, and that what I've started with preaching when I came back home, now I have a feeling it's being taken more easily than when all of this 2020 change didn't happen.
So do you see at this stage that collaboration is part of the educational model? So you're part of the educational institutions in Croatia. I experienced Croatia last year under crisis mode, actually collaborating. So crisis mode to post-earthquake in March, when I was visiting and then kind of got stuck through in the process of the lockdown, I saw people really collaborating in the same building where I was staying at the time. People who normally in that building don't really talk much to each other started talking to each other. and the collaboration of military, fire people, engineers was beautiful. Beautiful. And the customer care, they all spoke in multiple languages. They were actually really nice.
Yeah, but if I can, I try to be as much as quiet as I can, because usually I talk a lot, and I listen to you carefully. And you have gave Andres a very good example. That is the earthquake situation in Zagreb. We have a new, even it seems worse situation with earthquake in Petrinja, Sisak, and Old Banja. And what you are talking about is part of the system, like army, like the Red Cross, like volunteers, and people themselves. It seems that in Croatia, there is a part of cultural, I don't know, part of our being as Croatian citizens. It seems that when is the hardship, when is the catastrophe, like a natural catastrophe, like we had floods a few years ago, now we had earthquakes and COVID, then in Croatia you have, as you said, beautiful collaboration, needs to help to the next one. On the other side, you have a problem which even, I think COVID with the triple position, COVID 20, COVID 50, COVID with new shapes of COVID will not kill something which is in Croatia for century, and that is bureaucracy. I think even earthquake, I think the earthquake should learn that it has to negotiate with bureaucracy when it has to hit, and that the earthquake is so, in a way, we learned it this 2 weeks, so uneducated, and earthquake thinks that it can do better than the Croatian bureaucracy. Why I'm saying that, why I'm cynical? Because we have seen in the situation that what you were mentioning, what Sanja was saying before, and that is that we have a situation where we have a possibility to use these advantages as our advantage. I think that is the most what 2020 gave to me. And the fact that I have been in a situation that I cannot work as usual as a producer, as a filmmaker, that I cannot go on the field and shoot. That was the reason why we started Air Plus, which is a completely new platform, which I thought about it, that we should do it in the years to come, and I was thinking that it will take me 2, 3 to 5 years, but Air Plus has managed to born itself in only a few weeks, and we are now having this talk on Air Plus platform. So that is something which is good from 2020. We learned that the bureaucracy, because of the COVID, has possibility something like citizenship, which we didn't use. I mean, it existed, but nobody used. From the stupid point that you have to have a stamp. Now you didn't have to have a stamp, even though there is a law which abolishes stamp. This is very interesting in Croatia. You have a law which says that the stamp are abolished, but then every institution says, yeah, the law, but we need stamp. So we go with our stamps. I have it here with me, always with me. Even if I go to toilet, I have a stamp. So that is the thing which we learned in COVID, that, hey, there is a structure, there is a platform for e-citizenship, for e-business, for e-taxes. So we can use it. We started to use. That is excellent. That is the thing which I like from COVID. But the other thing which I'm not sure what will happen and how we will, in a way, resolve, and that is the cultural mentality which is in Croatia and Balkan somehow enduring very strongly. The other thing which I don't like when we talk about, let's talk about the possibility of using advantages of COVID situation, and that is that I think that we shouldn't exaggerate. One of the things which has been problem in Croatia and similar countries like Croatia, Eastern Europe, is that we exaggerated not implementing the new technology in our social life, business life, everyday life. What I'm afraid of this COVID time is that we go to the extremity on the other side, and that is that we shouldn't, in a way, my opinion is that we shouldn't abolish everything which was good in pre-COVID time, pre-digital time. Like, for example, of course, this is easier that we have a platform, we have a technology, and it will be probably much harder and much harder to come to the audience which we want to reach. This will be probably with live streaming and post streaming and boosting. This message will come to much more people than if we do analogically. not digitally. But also, I'm not keen of the situation where 4 of us cannot meet physically. And that is that there is a time for digital, for everything there is a time. There is a time for, like there's in saying in gospel, for everything you have time. So I think that there is a time for digital, very good, useful time, not time consuming too much way of working, but also I think that there is needness for time of social interaction, that many ideas which we have business-wise, creative-wise, comes out of our interaction, even physical, even drinking tea or beer, I don't know, even being in an office, not all the time. We don't have to. We learned that we don't have to be all the time in the office, and that we can spend our time better. But I think that going to because I don't like one thing which is pronounced as a syntagma in COVID time, and that is social distancing. No, this is physical distancing. Of course that we have to physically be aware of a pandemic and that we have to take care of our health and health of others. But even now we are socially interacting, even though we are physically distant. So we are not socially distancing. And I'm very afraid for 8 months everybody's talking, not only in Croatia, in English, in Italian, in French, la distanza sociale in Italian. I don't understand why this syntax was accepted, because I'm refusing to be social distance. I really do refuse. Being in this show with you, in this program, I'm showing every day that I'm refusing to be social distanced from you. So these are the parallel. Sorry if I'm a Grinch in this 2020 who stole the Christmas, but I'm worried constantly as a sociologist about the possible side effects which are not good, and we should be aware of it. Okay, that's it for me.
Yeah. Thank you, Robert. By the way, in the meantime, Nicholas, great to see you here too. I see some comments here, and we're going to answer them quickly, just in a minute. But based on what you said, Robert, I think for everything, like you said, there is a time, and if it improves your life, definitely use whatever is available and adapt quickly to what improves your life. If it doesn't, don't do it. I think for now, digital technology, there is still so much space in the world where we are not using it that it can improve our lives a lot. But a lot of people that I know are using it completely in the wrong way. Their mobile phone is a powerful tool, and I just wish I knew that 10 years ago. And I think what we are seeing now is just scratching the surface of what will happen in the future. And I just want to share what I know, what I'm doing with others, because I know that Croatia, especially Istria and Dalmatia, is one of the areas in European Union where 100 additional euros of income means the most. And the unemployment of the young and in general is huge. It's growing, especially now during COVID times. And I think Andreas knows a lot about the situation, what is going on. So I would like you, Andreas, to just summarize what are the changes that happened in 2020 that will mark our next decade.
I think the first thing, Luca, is a rebirth, so the renaissance that you can see if we look back in 10 years, we probably will see the bigger picture of it. But the same thing we already had a few hundred years ago, that people have a rebirth of focusing on quality of life by actually spending time together and not being stuck in traffic jams and not having a routine, which so far stressed out a lot of people. If you look at pre-2020, mental health issues, suicide rate, depression, especially in your generation, was one of the fastest growing factors. Yeah, they called it a suicide teenage or teenager suicide pandemic pre-2020. So now we have a situation where people actually have gone through the reset, and probably Croatia more than anybody else, because I'm not aware of any other place, especially in Europe, who had all these earthquakes and literally being shaken up. So, and seeing what Robert said, the power of video, I look at Robert Tomic-Zuber as an example of somebody who actually created a milestone situation with R+ in 2020. I remember having had meetings with Robert in early 2020. And if I see the Robert from January, February 2020, compare that with what he created with R+, reaching 7 million people at the end of 2020, that is unheard of in the history of the neighborhood. So that you can, with a great team, in such a year, by embracing technology and embracing simplicity, make such a thing happen, I can only say chapeau. This is entrepreneurial rebirth as its best. And entrepreneurship, from my perspective, is playfulness. Yeah, so this is my definition of entrepreneurship.
And I would say risk. I would say risk.
Sorry?
I would say also risk. I would say also fight. I would say, like you have said before, very gently, that you and I more often we don't agree to each other, and that is correct. We very often start to quarrel about even about Air Plus. We didn't agree how, why, and then I think that this is the position when you have to make decision if you're an entrepreneur, and then make and stand by this decision, and also to have a situation where I was very much asked in the March, in April, in May, what the heck I'm doing, why I'm doing this, and why I'm trying to do something which is completely crazy. I was also said very ambitious, I was told. And I said yes, but because I think that there is a possibility, there is a chance. And now we have a platform which, I don't know, in first year will not earn any great income. Maybe it will be only investing, not incoming. But I think that we at least have a possibility that we created a platform where we, as we say, the space of freedom, the place of freedom, where we can even have a situation where you don't have to talk too much to so many directors, so many editors. Should we have LTI talks? Should we have a possibility of breaking a story which will shake a little bit Croatia? No, we are just doing it. Of course, we are checking the story, we are contextualizing it, we are finding the arguments and the facts, fact checking, we are doing it. So what I'm saying that when we are talking about the possibilities, we are only one of the project which emerged in Croatia during the COVID time. And if you see how many startups, how many jobs changed themselves in Croatia, and actually it looks like you're a vulture because you got benefits from COVID, which it's, I'm saying we got benefit from COVID. It's not very nice to say because it seems that you're like a vulture, and I'm not a vulture. I don't feel. I just decided that my platform could be created with my colleagues, Vanya and Tena, and we had some people who were helping us all the time, and that we can share a platform where we can have benefit of that. So instead of that, we could sit down in house for 5 months, being sorry for ourselves and that this universe is against us with this COVID and new version of COVID, and we will stay at house until, I don't know, I'm 17. I don't have time for that.
Yeah, but Robert, on top of this, you did this and it worked well, and it inspired, I'm sure, thousands of younger media people to follow a similar path. As I said, reaching 7 million seems to be unheard of in the history of any media outlet in the Croatian jurisdiction. Good. Let me add one thing. There's another situation which I think is beautiful. If you see what Luka initiated last year, that an organization as old, with such a history and legacy as the Croatian Chamber of Commerce, which has been alive for 165 years, is seeing the light on the horizon and making the issue of digitalization and the issue of remote work a top subject. Yeah, so this is how it started. That was last summer. And so to see an established organization, a kind of a state organization, moving into that direction is powerful. Imagine Croatia, the generation of the Lukas, not anymore leaving for Austria, Germany, Italy, but able to be remote working from their laptops in Osijek for a German company, for probably what they consider a higher income. Yeah, so they don't have to leave. So this is something where I can only say chapeau to an organization like the Croatian Chamber of Commerce to literally stand up and say, hey, we are doing this. We are empowering people to see the opportunity and take somebody who is as young as Luka, as somebody who brings that know-how to Croatia. And so it's fantastic. So it's nice to see that they're in a 2020 innovation pandemic year, state organizations like the CCC actually, and they get attacked for many things, and probably for the right reasons, but in any case have the backbone to do this and to push this forward. And I even saw yesterday that they sent an invite to the R+ program. So a state organization like the CCC sending an invite to connect to this kind of content and to continue the collaboration with Luca on remote work and digitalization, if I correctly cover that subject. Luca, that's correct, right?
Yes, that's correct. And big thanks to Rea, Maria, Iva, and Josipa for initiating that last year and for seeing that and being early in a big change.
Yeah, maybe HRT is inviting you soon, Robert, to speak about how to set up another R+.
Well, I have my different now aims, but never mind. I would advise if somebody asks me. But Sanja, what do you say?
I would add on to digitization and remote work having its impact in educational, also in academia sphere. And then we have, I believe, one question from the sphere of education, Luca, right? Am I getting that?
Yeah. There is Marianne said, hello, I'm interested how much this last year and even most of this school year will affect the education level of children and youth in Croatia considering online classes. Will the level suffer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very complex question, and it can be answered from different angles. I would like to first stress the positive that happened with the pandemic to higher education, academia in my context. So, for example, before, when we surveyed students after a semester passed and when we wanted to get their input on the quality of teaching, the quality of the courses, we would get those results maybe a year and a half after. And now, with digitization and with not having another chance to do surveys but online, we got them instantly like this, and we could adapt and make changes already for the next term. So that's definitely one positive. So things are becoming, as we said, pushed through and more transparent, and I have a feeling that 2020 has just speeded up what has already started happening on the example with Luca collaborating with the Croatian Chamber of Commerce and many other. What's happening in an educational setting, from my perspective as a parent, is that things are becoming, again, more transparent. I'm seeing what kind of assignments my children are getting, if those are examples of busy work where they just get some worksheets to fill in, if they are getting meaningful projects where they are engaged, something that they will be able to use and apply in life. So
sorry, Sanja, we as a parents are more involved because we are forced to be more involved. Because I have one thing, sorry if I digression, I have a 18-year-old graduate guy who is like, oh my God, this graduation is destroyed by COVID because I can't have a party. On the other hand, I have a 11-year-old son who has said one thing which struck me, and I was like very upset, this online schooling and everything. Why, I cannot do this without help of mom. I cannot do without help of you. And me, I figured it out that I'm actually talking as my father. Imagine, as my father. We don't want to be our fathers and mothers. But I said, when I was a kid, I was doing my schoolwork alone. And then he said very firmly, yes, but you had a school where a school teacher has explained you everything at the school. And I have to do all alone. I was like, fuck, yeah, he's right. And then I started to help him, and mother helped him a lot. So I'm saying that this kind of, it's exhausting, especially for you. You have 2 kids together. I have separately with their mothers. For me, it's much easier, but you're working, you have to come from the work. And the other thing which I'm worried when we talk about education, the time when we have to leave them alone. Nobody thinks about how they will cook, how will they eat. This is the thing which opened the possibility. I still think that it's for the kids important to have a social interaction. It's very important. If we kill that, I don't know how we will, if the continuous COVID resolve that with online platform, because they will end up doing front night game on the PlayStation, And I think that's not the only answer. So one thing is education, but I leave back to you because I think you're more skilled as a mother than I as a father, as usual, with the parenting. But I am afraid with this youth. It's a great possibility, but also it brings up me as a parent, as a father, a great also fear, I must say.
Yes, it's always the unknown. That's correct. But if you look into the global perspective, Robert, you see that states like Florida established the first virtual school in 1999. So that's 21 years ago. So, and the results, so Florida did it over 20 years ago, a state initiative, and this was focused on giving kids access to remote education. And it empowers the kids to logically pursue their interests outside of school to a much higher degree. So anybody who wants to play basketball, tennis, whatever they really want to do with their life, they can do that in any part of the day, which is good for their training, and they can address the schooling content at a time which suits into their schedule. And that has worked well in different parts of the world. What we saw last year, that some results which I read, that the schooling and the learning ability, that to absorb content has a 40% increase if you don't do it in a rigid schedule, and if you do not do it in a rigid physical setup. So, and I've had those discussions around education for the last 20 years, a subject which I deeply care about. So we have curriculums at school where we try to make everybody become a goldfish or a monkey, but we are all a little bit different in the sense of we have different predispositions. So following the same curriculum is not always ideal for 20 or 30 kids in the same class. And so I think we will go again through a rebirth or a renaissance of education.
Yeah, I think that Daniela Jura is agreeing with you. Time will show to us the content needs to be redefined to see clearly what the priorities are, what children really need to for the future, and how to give it to them in a healthy way. And I think that this redefinition is something which is which will come. And I give back to Sanya because I took a little bit of her time about children. But I agree with you, Andres, because we don't have, all our children don't have the same capacity. All have to have A's. If you don't have A's, you're flawed. Which is, I can be good in filming, but I'm in mathematics I'm sucking. I said to my son that I don't know mathematics. I don't know. I'm really in a problem. I know 1 + 1 can be should be 2, but it can be maybe 3. I don't know.
I care about two things. I care about keeping the kids alive, and I mean it. So the suicide rates of teenagers is multiplying. Yeah, I care about keeping them sane. So mental health issues, over 1/3 identify with having mental health problems. We never had those issues before, and I hope that through the rebirth of last year, we are looking into alternative models which actually address those subjects.
And we are looking at them because they are taken out in front of everybody. We as parents are all involved. It's exhausting, Robert. I agree. The same for us. We have to invest our time and energy to work with them because they need that support. It's not as sustainable as it could be yet in Croatia, our virtual educational model. Definitely not. But it doesn't mean that it's not right that we are invested. We have this amazing opportunity to maybe make education what we think should be, what we think is best for our children, and engage with them and really try.
Like COVID showed that, and Petrinja and Sisak situation showed that we didn't have the same condition for online for children throughout Croatia, because I heard the story of a lady in Petrinja, or Glina, who had to go with her daughter on the high hill and there to have Wi-Fi and then to have online tasks for the school and then go home and to write and then go back to the mountain. I mean, it's crazy. So what I think that this is a chance that we see that our system is not equal for everybody in terms of technology, and that we have to I'm going back to the things which I agree with Andreas a lot, is that we have to reschedule and redefine our curriculum and see that not all of us are same. We have to have some, grounds. Everybody has to know alphabet. Everybody has to know this and this. But from that up, it's optional, I think.
What we have now is a very competitive system where our children are pursuing all A's and our report cards are not saying much, right? We have, English language 5, and I don't know what does that mean. Is my kid good at writing? Is he good at reading? Is he good at synthesizing? Is he more analytical? It's not telling much. And we have this whole opportunity as educators twice in a year to communicate how complex educational profession is, how complex teaching is. It's a call, not a profession, and we don't use that. We send a piece of paper that's filled with one page with numbers, not saying much, and an empty-sided other back page. It's crazy. For me, that's just not using the assets we have. And still,
I agree with I agree with Elon Musk, guys. So Mr. Tesla, on the subject, he said clearly he didn't have to continue, or he didn't have to study at Harvard because he employed lots of people who did. Yeah. So, and we saw in 2020 as well, organizations like Google came up with a program where they train people in 6 months, and they clearly state that they're committed to employ them afterwards for a buffer of 50,000 euros or $50,000. Everybody could do this, as an example, remotely. So you could do that from Osijek as well. And show me any educational institution in Croatia right now where you can go for 6 months and have a commitment of being employed afterwards for 50,000 euros or $50,000. So, Robert, the lit focus includes education. Yeah, includes digitalization, because these are very, very core fundamental issues. In my vision for a place like Croatia, you have the first 500 Lukas, people in their early 20s who can work remotely from anywhere in Croatia. They don't have to leave, and they can pursue a great career and an opportunity connecting to opportunities on a global scale. Don't forget, last year, Germany, as an example, with millions of people working remotely, they drafted a law which entitles people to the right to work remotely. So can you envision millions of Germans who can work from their laptops? They could spend the winter in Croatia, or those employers could start employing people who work remotely in Croatia or anywhere in the neighborhood. So this is such a game-shifting and game-changing perspective. It will be so much fun to explore that in the lit talks to come.
I agree.
Yeah, and about the education, I think it's very easy nowadays to be very focused on one skill that you want to learn and one result, and find the right person online who can teach you the same thing. And the education doesn't have to be formal in a university. If you want to learn how to work remotely, there is a way how to do that in the most efficient way, not doing it for 4 or 5 years, if you know exactly what you want to do. And
yeah, but I wouldn't abolish the university as a fact. Yeah. I'm just saying that we have to have possibilities.
Yes. Yeah. And put the content on an e-learning platform, Luca. Why shouldn't great content not come on an e-learning platform? You don't have to be in physical walking distance with the university to actually reach people. Don't forget that happened in Stanford, I think 7-8 years ago, when the most talented professors left and started e-learning platforms because they want to make sure that globally people can connect to that experience, and not anymore the people who can afford to move physically close to Stanford.
Yeah, I agree, and you can have the same situation in Croatia, where you have for small cities where actually you have a situation where you have financially families who cannot support that kind of education. But now with technology, we have also, because of capacity, for example, the law university has only 1,000 or 500 students per year, but because of physically. But if you have a possibility of technology, you can liberate, and they can live in Županja, in Sisak, in Split, in Rijeka, in Šibenik, and still be a student of faculty of law.
And tuitions can be significantly lower or very symbolic tuitions. We can enter the whole era of tuition-free higher education, which would make it. But I don't think we answered Marian's question, and I think I lost it. I couldn't get it in chat back. I think that she was wondering about applications, what the pandemic and online teaching will have its effect. Okay, right. The last year for the children and youth in Croatia. Well, being a parent rep in my kid's school, I can empathize with teachers' worst fear. Their worst fear is that they will not be able to cover the whole content. They will not be able to cover everything. And I always tirelessly am trying to say, and that it's not important to cover the content, right? What matters is that our kids are having this opportunity of developing an independent approach to learning. We are there and they depend on us, but we have this opportunity to also help them be independent and to make the best out of what's in front of them. So I think that the pros outweigh the cons in a great extent. And I don't think we should worry about content and covering content. And then Daniela's comment also wrapped it up that this way content will be redefined. It has to be, because now everybody knows what's happening. Everybody is directly included in it. The parents and the students and everybody's talking about it. So it will change.
Okay, I agree with that. Luca, one thing I want to ask you is that when we talk about the new businesses and the generation, you're younger than I am, we have also one possibility which I think is very important. When I was your age, chances were pretty much undemocratic, because it was very hard to go through connection to connection to connection. Now, with digitalization being, I don't know, as somebody was saying today, like a digital nomad, you can reach out of your environment much easier than before. It is possible that you make visible your work on some platforms, and I think this kind of beginning of new businesses for newcomer is much easier today than, I don't know, 20 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, not a long time ago, but 2017, I remember I sent my first video to one of the most successful young people I knew at that time on Instagram. And it was just a normal iPhone 5S video, me walking down the street and telling him, hey, because they were looking for somebody to join their team. It was a small company. This guy had an amazing mentor I was following on Instagram. And there were, I think, 10 people in the team. And they were selling solar panels in California. And at that time, solar panels were the first boom, because the market in the US was new, and I knew that guy, and I really liked what they're doing. So I sent them a video message, and they were huge. They were huge on Instagram, and I was the only person next to other guy who sent a video message. We both got the offer to move there. They would pay for the costs. They would do everything, and we would even get the accommodation in a big villa for, I don't know, $300 per month. And we would have a cook for $300 additionally that would cook for all of us. And that opened my eyes. And since then, Andreas was a big also influence for me when it comes to video. So reaching out to people has become normal to me. The other day, I reached out to a guy who posted something on video on Instagram. If he could send it back to me. He's also a big influencer in the US and Australia. He sent the video back, and now we just established the contact. So reaching out to people has been very easy, and people don't believe that it is so easy, but it is. And also learning about a skill that you want to get. So education. You don't need anybody. You just go to YouTube. All the skills on YouTube are for free. And it sounds too good to be true, but it's true that if you learn something from YouTube, you can basically learn it in a couple of weeks or a month, 2 months, 3 months, based on your basic level of knowledge. And you can start earning $3,000, $4,000 per month from Croatia. And making yourself visible has never been easier as well. And all these social media gurus who say you need to have 1 million followers, you need to post every day 65 content pieces. That works if you have 20 people employed, but it is very easy to get to the first client, second client, third client without any social media presence. You just need a skill. You need to know who you're reaching out to, who's your target, what do you want to achieve, and how do you solve their problem. And if you know those things, your life can change in a matter of weeks.
And Robert, when I was Luca's age, we introduced fax machines across Germany. And so that was kind of a similar breakthrough, because as an example, at one stage, we sent a fax to some people in Hong Kong, and we got an invite to come to Hong Kong a week later. So without these fax machines and without that kind of progress at that time, that would have not been possible. I think if you look back in civilization, we have those major milestones. And I think the biggest one I experienced in my lifetime was 2020. Yeah. And so, yes, it exponentially changes things. And it's beautiful to see, as I said in the beginning, that this renaissance or rebirth of 2020 leads to so many more people being playful by starting some initiative, project, business out of their own capacity. And this is what 2020 actually did.
Yeah, I think I was puzzled by Ivana Dragic topic. She had a new question. It's not everything which you can see, so I'm going to try to read it. As someone who is involved in learning and training, I can only commend two things. The educational system is considering everyone should be expert in everything, equally good math, music, and history, art history. Because if they are not, they will not manage to go certain high universities, etc. And creates stress. Second, we still teach kids to memorize everything. Why? With today access to all information, let's teach kids where to find information and how to use them. Why we want to walking encyclopedias who will not know what to do with the data. Actually, it's a great comment.
Yeah.
And it will be one of the topics for the upcoming Lit Talks to look into more of the details there, because there are educational models. As I mentioned before, Florida had virtual schools, online schools since over 20 years. Did any of the guys in Europe really pick up that know-how? Not really. Yeah, so they try to all reinvent the issue. And so you can see right now in Germany, in different states of Germany, they all get confused which online platform to use. Yeah, because they don't have that access and look into the global perspective and make it simply just learn from the people who have been doing it. So educational models will totally reset. And yes, you have to know where to find the information. You don't have to use, or I could not use my limited brain capacity to remember everything. And I rejected with my school principal to compete on subjects because I wasn't interested. It didn't make me a popular student. So this will become more mainstream, that people actually learn things they're passionate about at a time which is conducive for them to empower kids to be empowered human beings and not somebody who is following orders and instructions.
Okay, but do you think that after, hopefully COVID will, not maybe this year, but next year, how much of those new experience, new digital options will survive and stay, or shall we go to the back, or this is the point when everything changed and there's no back?
It's the other way. It's the other way around, Robert. It's the other way around. There's a nice video when Mercedes-Benz was driving the first horseless carriage, they called it at that time, which was the first car. Yeah. So they would have probably asked the question at that time in the same way. Yeah. So how many of the horses will survive and how many of the carriages? So you will see in this renaissance and rebirth, the question will more be how soon will the other ones expire? Yeah. So yes, there was a fax machine, there's email. Still people print advertising material, which is polluting the world. Yeah. So, but the question is not, will it expire? The only question is when, because we cannot afford to run ineffective systems anymore. We as society have to focus on empower people. You are right now in a jurisdiction which has what's the average pensioner income is 250 euros. They can barely pay their heating bill. Yeah, the question is how long can we afford to have pensioners freezing in winter? So that is the situation. We have to apply the resources in a way which is empowering children to become empowered human beings who can run their own life. And the educational model has not done that before COVID. Yeah, so pre-2020, the educational models did not train people's skills to actually create their own projects, to create an R+, or like Luca to work remotely, or like Sanya to go to Kuwait to open up her horizon. It wasn't part of it. They all did it because they saw more than others did at given points in time. So the old stuff, the question is not do we go back to the old? No, the question is how long will it take us to manifest new models?
Yeah, I think that if we can go to Our question is that from YouTube, Daniela Jura said we cannot have a quality education without well-educated teachers. Then the part needs to be redefined first. And most of some of the teachers, the great number, even don't know how to use the digital tools which are offered in this COVID time. From Facebook, Barbara Barb says, the most important thing is to learn kids how to think. Croatian schools, with beautiful exception of some teachers, are not of that level, millions of years away from the level actually.
I would dare say that our teachers are well versed in teaching profession. Our teachers have good education in pedagogy, in teaching methodology, in classroom management. What I saw and with our readiness to switch to online distant teaching over the night impressed me, because I came from a progressive international private school world where it took us a whole year to switch from different models. What we lack, I think, is and most of our teachers will say that, they lack the systemic support. So it's not that we need to redefine the teaching profession in Croatia, we need to redefine our teaching system, our educational system. We don't have criteria to give weight or strength to critical thinking, creativity, analysis, synthesis. I don't think that's anywhere on our report cards. So then our teachers would say, but we have to cover all this content. I cannot facilitate thinking, understanding, conversation, discussion, because I have nothing to do with it. I will not report it anywhere. Where will I put it? If I put it on Ednevnik, 5% of parents will read it, and they don't find it useful. They don't find it even important to manifest for anything. So that, I think that this is one of the changes that needs to happen top to bottom and not bottom top, because it really depends on the system. I think it has to come from the ministry. And I think that School for Life, Škola za život, was definitely a great step in making education more interdisciplinary, integrated, holistic. And all of our teachers want that for their students, for their kids. We as parents, we want a holistic interdisciplinary education for our kids. We want that. But we are used to expecting what was expected from us. And then when my kid comes home and says, oh, I got a C from Priroda, from biology, so what did you do? What didn't you do? Like my instinct, my knee-jerk reaction is like, but why? And why would that? Why would I do that? Because we live in a competitive system.
Okay, we talked a lot about education, of course, because of the question of our viewers, and I think it's one of the most important topics when we talk about 2021 and the future after 2020. But one of the things I would go back to business-wise topics is that do you see that there is a possibility that for Croatia and all region, I don't know if Europe, even we could talk about Europe, is Europe also as European Union or continent adapted to online working and using it as much as it should? We were mentioning Google, that they changed, that Germany is changing the law. So that assumes that before we were in the old-fashioned way, just office, 8 to 5, you go home, that's it.
Look at Luka's generation and look at your jurisdiction where you are right now. You are in Croatia. That generation is extremely sophisticated when it comes to digital skill sets. The missing piece for them so far was to realize they can work for international companies. And if they want, they can set up their own company in Estonia and run their consultancy contracts through the company in Estonia if they want to. So they can do many creative things, which will lead ultimately to certain things becoming simpler in Croatia. I read how complicated it is to set up a business in Croatia and register a company. Do you really believe that the generation of Lukas will wait until the administration changes? No, they will just do what Matija Babic did and relocating certain things to Bulgaria, to Estonia or somewhere else. Yeah, so they will do that because they can. So in a nutshell summary, Europe is in a great position because people are using mobiles to a very high degree. Yeah, so then number one. Number two, in your neighborhood, people like Luka's generation has a high level of digital skill sets, very powerful. Number three, they have great DNA, are very charming people. Number four, they have languages, yeah, which is fantastic. And number five, Robert, they're exposed to tourism in Croatia, which is powerful. So they know how to deal with international people. Yeah, so the nice thing about people in Croatia is Luka's generation, they all have met some tourists. So they are not confused when they say people from other countries. So for them, it's a normal thing in a ratio of 3.5 million Croatians and 20 million tourists. So then they're used to it. So for them to interact with different cultures and different people, I would say to a certain degree comes natural.
But
Yeah.
I think the way I see it is never before you could know exactly what is happening on the other side of the world, like you can find out now. And you can see exactly what your peers or younger generation or somebody older than you is doing on the other side of the world. You can see that a lot of people are now being very transparent about what they're doing, how they're doing it, about their income. And before I viewed Europe as 2 years behind the US. I think that is becoming smaller because of digitalization and globalization. The world has never been smaller and closer to each other. So in Croatia, for example, if somebody has Instagram profile or watches YouTube, they can see exactly what their peers are doing in the US, how much they're earning, who they're working with, or they can even see somebody from Croatia who is doing it from Croatia and who is also transparent and show them what they're doing, how they're doing it, how actually easy it is. It's just about if you believe in yourself and about taking action. So
Yeah.
I think that is changing Europe the most. That 10 years before, this 2020 would look totally different from what we would read in the news. The panic would be probably much more emphasized because sorry, Robert.
It would be a dystopia. It would be like when it starts, it's like, science fiction film of catastrophe.
Yeah, and imagine the only way the government could communicate is through news in the evening or just the news channel. So today, we're lucky to be able, or lucky, or unlucky to share the panic way too much. But you can find out the truth if you want to about different things. And the same thing with business.
It's the same thing with the fact checking. You can use social media for having, conspiracy theory to go on, but also you have the tool to use this tool to have a fact checked news to everybody. So it's just a balance.
Yes.
Sorry, guys, I know that you came back to work, but the comments are again in the sphere of education.
Really?
No, Marian, the teachers have to go through continuous professional development, and I agree. And I want to share that in international school businesses, what has shown as the most efficient, most effective professional development was instructional coaching. So not sending teachers to a distant travel, who knows where, professional development to sit in a seminar, absorb, listen, take notes, and maybe share with their colleagues, but to have people in-house that will facilitate thinking. So when I worked as an instructional coach, easiest for me was when I didn't know. So those people do not have to be experts in all subjects. Those are just people who are skilled at facilitating conversation. And I remember, so me being an English teacher by profession, when I was put to work with math teachers, biology teachers, I was the best coach because I didn't know. I didn't know the subject. Then I could put myself out of the profession and I could objectively, through questioning, facilitate their thinking. So Marianne, that's your answer. That's the professional development that can be continuous and on campus. No more.
Okay, I agree. I don't object with the fact that we are back to the education, and it is the topic which concerns a lot of people because we are here. It seemed very unhelpful. We didn't know how to do, what to do, who will take care of our kids, and will we prevail these problems which we had. But I think that we prevailed with problems more and less, and that we adapted more and more to this situation, and that I think that okay, this year maybe is lost because we were not prepared, but if this continues, maybe we will know how to use it. You disagree, Andreas?
Yes, because ultimately this year brought us closer. We spend more time with our children than actually before. People live more honest, authentic relationships than before. Yeah, so children have been more plugged into housework than ever before. So you actually teach them skills which are life relevant. Yeah, so where I'm coming from, I had so many people. Oh no, I employed a few hundred people in my life, sadly, lots of them had no idea how to travel, which kind of travel adapter to use, which kind of passport, what's a combination, how to organize basics. So a lot of day-to-day life skills have been better trained in 2020 than ever before. And so we will see that in a few years. But this is always during crisis mode you reveal character. Yeah. So, and this character was actually experienced by children. Yeah, a lot of people might have realized that they shouldn't have kids. Other people will realize that they really love to have kids. Yeah, and a lot of people will stop living a relationship which they don't want to live. And yes, Robert, we will see a crisis at a certain point when it comes to mental health and suicide rates. But I think in the bigger picture, we see a new focus, a rebirth of understanding health, well-being, and immune systems. I was on Good Morning Croatia in summer when I was still there before I left, and people realizing that they are in charge of their own immune system, which gives them a 99% plus success rate on managing any virus. Yeah, that is a breakthrough of 2020. We have never taught that in any school.
Yeah. Okay, I agree. Luca?
I see that people I talk to, entrepreneurs and business owners, we all have things that we want to do, and we're waiting for a long time to do that. And we're waiting for the right moment, and we have planned in the next 3, 4, 5 years, I want to do this and that. And I think this year, and the comment I get the most is that this year enables them to focus on exactly that thing. And usually it turns out that that thing was something they wanted to do for a long time, and this allows them to move to that thing, to finally focus on what they want to do. Besides, increased number of people that are now thinking about health, immune system, spending more time with their family, exercising. Now there are so many opportunities where you can reshuffle your luck. Not only luck, like reshuffle what life brings you. And it happens all the time in the history that this time period comes when you have to reshuffle and the whole world changes. And some people go up, some people go down, but in general, I think this is a good move because it enables everybody to have equal opportunities, almost everybody. And I think that is a power of internet. It's a big equalizer.
Okay, so we are we have like 10 minutes more to wrap it up. We will be 1 hour and a half of, I think, very dynamic talks, even though I was a little bit eager how we will talk, because for me business is somehow dull. But it seems that it can be very, very argumentative and very dynamically shared to our viewers. But I want to ask for the closure, each one of you, if we come to the situation, we cannot know how long it will last with the COVID. We see now the new mutation in Great Britain is taking casualties, and that there is a possibility that we will spend more time than we hoped in this COVID environment. But pandemia, of course, is giving us some rules we have to follow. But as we talk for 1 hour and 18 minutes, it also gave us the opportunity how to use pandemia as we thought as disadvantage and to use it as advantage. So would you summarize for us, if we are waiting for 1 year or a year and a half, or maybe 2 years of this environment, what would you, if you summarize as an advantage in this digital nomad, digital era, digital tools, digital possibilities? Sanja.
Thank you, Robert. I would say that the best that we can make out of the pandemic and the 2020, and looking through the collaboration lens, is definitely opening up for vulnerability, for empathy, for transparency of communication, for openness, truthfulness. All of that is long-term wise most sustainable, not most, but the only sustainable way. That should be everybody's modus operandi. That should be our new design of life. And in that case scenario, we all thrive. And as a universal language that communicates harmony and understanding, I would teach everybody smile. So smile is what I think the universal language that teaches harmony and understanding. And that's it. Thank you, Robert.
Luca?
I would say understand that there is no such thing as normal and not normal. The time frame of life, like the time just continues. It's not stopping, and it's not like 2020 will now just be cut and removed. So the times have changed, and it's changing constantly. It's just a matter of how much and how quick you can adapt. And I would say the best thing to do is not to operate from panic, but from power, to do something that comes naturally and where you feel good when you're doing it. Just be curious, use what is in front of you, take the next step, because there is no such thing as normal. We are living in times where this can happen more often, and if you adapt now, you can manage to help others how to do it. You can serve as an example, and the quicker you do it, the faster you learn how to do it, your life will be easier.
So if I understand you, use the, because I'm not the guy who will say the new normal is excellent for me, but I would say that we can use the best of new normal and preserve the good things from the old normal or my normal.
Exactly. I'm a first person who would like to meet everybody in person, and I'm extremely social. I enjoy human touch and I connect with people easily. And I have great people all over the world that I would like to meet all the time. I know that's not possible due to some limitations of time and distance, but it doesn't matter if you. It doesn't matter. What I would like to say is use both when you can and as much as you can. Like, there's no reason to say no to something completely or yes to something exclusively. Nothing is black or white. And
be in dialogue with yourself, I would say. Natalia Certain says, in this time, we should question information received about COVID virus, the crisis, the situation in general. We should use logic and above seek the truth. Okay, that's one of the way of thinking. Andreas, are you here? I think okay. Andreas has some issue with the headphones. Can you hear us? Okay, maybe while Andreas is doing it, I can say my point of view. And my point of view is that I will be the person who will continue to try to use and adapt ourselves in the situation where of course, my doing is also filmmaking, and it's very hard for me not to be in a position that I cannot go on the field, have associates, because I cannot do my work alone. I have to have associates. I have to have a camera person. I have to have a director of photography, editor, people who are in front of the camera, behind of the camera. So I hope that maybe we will have a situation where we will adapt and that we will maybe possibly use what is for us given in this COVID time. But for certain, I will not be the one who will at the end decide to say, I quit. I think this is for me the highlight of the COVID time. I will not quit, whatever it means. I don't know. So now hopefully we have Andreas. Can you hear us, Andreas? Something happened with his microphone. Maybe he doesn't hear us. Maybe he changed the which is actually good. We are finishing the program, and we had a problem only at the end of it. Okay, before I want to give a chance to Andreas that he settles down his mic so we can have it at his ending. But before that, Sanja, you are now in Croatia, yeah, as you said.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
So, what do you think about the situation when we are talking about this fight with bureaucracy in Croatia? Will that change? Because even in earthquake, we saw that there is a system which doesn't actually apprehend the situation as it is and then goes its own way. But will that, do you think, change?
I will suppose you're referring to the situation with the Red Cross or similar bodies, or not to name any, doesn't matter.
Okay.
But yes, bureaucracy, you won't believe this, what I'm about to say, Robert. I learned to appreciate Croatia's bureaucracy when I moved to the Middle East. In the Middle East, the official channel for communication in their Ministry of Education is WhatsApp.
Oh my God.
Like now I'm generalizing it and making it like all junk, but it's yeah, I love that country, so I'm not saying negative about it. But the Croatia's bureaucracy, yes, it's really prohibiting progress. And I think that this, again, opportunity with digitization and remote work is opening up new opportunities for us to realize what's necessary, whose work is necessary, what's not necessary, what do we need to rechannel and then make use and relearn, and again make it sustainable. That's the word I'm using so often, but it's so important and so meaningful. So I'm not sure if you asked me, what do I think? Will it change? When will it change? Can you specify again what was your question? What do I think of it, or how do I change?
No. How will you change it? The question is, probably we all have our opinion. What would we change? But my question is general. Do we see the light in the tunnel, and that some things will change?
I think they are happening as we speak. They are changing. Although we are probably very frustrated with that change being so slow. We take baby steps. We take one baby step and then two gigantic steps back, and it's so super frustrating. We would like to speed it up. The 2020 pandemic has definitely, the 19th pandemic has definitely speeded it up. Not as we would like to see, to the proportions we would like to experience. But I always see, maybe I'm not the right person for your question, Robert, because I always relentlessly see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. So we're the one who believe that the light in the tunnel there is. Luca, before Andreas, he's trying to come back to our program. If he will not be able, then we will have to say hello to him also in this way. But I wanna say, well, Andreas mentioned a lot of time your generation, and I think that your generation is important. You're the newcomer. You will very fastly then my generation take over the next, and that is me and my generation. But do you think that the possibility of digital tools which are in a way given to all of us is actually still in Croatia? You said before it's not used well. It's used like mobile is used for I don't know what, for still for selfies, not for what it could be used. Like you can make a with iPhone excellent film. You can make a news reporting. You can use M-banking and have your whole business, paying all the bills through the to the mobile phone. But it seems that, as you said, that in Croatia still your generation uses these digital tools for different, not for business, for progress, but just for fun, socializing, Snapchatting, and similar like that.
Yeah, so if you look at not just my generation in Croatia, but in the world and the history of content on internet, at first you had long form content, like longer articles were more read, longer videos, interesting things going on where people had more attention span, a longer attention span. And nowadays you're competing for attention span by making the scenes faster and faster, quicker, transferring the information that you wanted to say, the message, in the fastest way you can. And if you look at, for example, TikTok or Instagram videos, they're all being like bam, 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 the message is here. And when you watch that kind of video, it seems like you got something out of it. You feel you know something, you know it, you know how to do it. But actually it stops there. You just get a spike of dopamine and you think you're fine. You can go back and you actually don't do anything about it. Just watch the next video. So I think if if we ask ourselves, for example, I read somewhere, did you ever meet a billionaire who smokes a cigarette? For example, that's just one example that struck my mind. And I've never seen a billionaire smoke a cigarette. Maybe a cigar, but not a cigarette. Maybe I'm wrong, but I also can say I've never seen anybody I look up to scroll on TikTok or Instagram and comment other people's posts on those social media. And I think my generation can ask the same question: who do I want to be? Is this the best version of myself? And is the best version of myself scrolling on TikTok and watching other people's video and commenting and liking on this video? And just being aware of it can change a lot. And also the rules we are brought the rules that we learn from others around us. Others are as confused as we are most of the time, and just understanding that nobody knows the answer, and that if somebody taught you to do something some way, doesn't mean that you have to do it. And relearning is extremely hard. It is harder than learning, much harder than learning, and I think it is a better skill than learning, because
Yeah, we are actually no. Yeah, I like this. I'm an analogical guy, so I'm using all digital tools, so I can, analogically get back Andreas because something happened because bandwidth did everything. So Andreas is here, like here. He looks good, yeah. So at the end, we will allow to Andreas to finish and wrap up in a very analogical way. Andreas, the floor is yours. What can we expect? Can something change?
In which context?
Well, we are talking about where when we lost you, is that like bureaucracy in Croatia, could it change? Could we, when we talk about Luka's generation, expect that they will use this phone more than just having chat on Snapchat? And actually, the guys are saying that they're very optimistic. Are you?
I think there are different people and they're pursuing different avenues. So you can see as an example the Croatia 2.0 movement in Croatia, which is managed by or led by people who are one generation older than Luka. They're the ones who are arguing and actually are in a constructive but sometimes confrontational manner addressing issues with the Croatian government on the issue of the current bottlenecks in the system. And as I always said, the current way how Croatia operates reminds me of East Germany before the reunification. So there are a couple of things which just seem to be super painful. People don't believe in their own legal system. Law enforcement seems to be highly dysfunctional to a certain degree. And as an example, in my own experience, people are not reading Croatia as a country signed the Hague Convention in 1991. That doesn't mean that people are actually aware of all the issues in 2021. So that is what I experienced. So the generation of Luka, I don't think will wait for that. They will rather use then things in different jurisdictions. They will rather use a company in Estonia or operate out of Sofia and do things in the EU, which they can do, and not wait until the administration in Croatia resets. So there's so far still, I think Croatia is the number 2 brain drain country in Europe. Malta is number 1. The only difference is Malta has a lot of people coming to Malta, and Croatia doesn't really. So I'm not optimistic when it comes to Luka's generation. They will not wait for things to change in Croatia. They will just use the best they can within a European context, and they should. So I'm not optimistic or what I've seen in Croatia, which in crisis mode works extremely well. Yeah, that's what I've seen, and it's amazing people who really want to make things happen. That's great. But in practice, on a day-to-day basis, I've seen so many things where it just seems to be a sport out of not making things happen and to continue complaining about it. And sadly, a lot of people are scared to actually address those issues. As an example, the earthquake last year in March. March earthquake, the banks have continued to sell hypothecs and loans for properties in April and the month after without insisting on people having an earthquake insurance. Can you imagine? You sell people a loan for whatever, 10, 20, 30 years. And after a major earthquake in March, you don't change your policy that you insist on people having an earthquake insurance. So right now, people have lost their properties. The insurance doesn't want to pay, and they're supposed to pay off their loan for the next 30 years. So this is dinosaur features gone wrong.
Yeah.
So you can see what the CCC did is exact opposite. They saw that remote work and digitalization are core topics, and they put it on the agenda. It's great to see. Yeah, but what you can see with the banks is a good example where they didn't bother to update their business practice. Yeah, so they should have insisted that everybody signing a loan for a property has to have earthquake insurance. Everything else is suicidal.
Okay, thank you, Andreas. I think that we will stay together in this. My buddy, Andreas, and me, we will stay here together.
Robert,
You're on my shoulder now.
Robert, can I just say one more thought that I got during Andreas' speech? I wanted to. So yes, people can leave. People need to understand that they are not trees. They can move and we should look at countries more as businesses, because that's what they are. They have an offer to attract more people and more businesses to come and move there. And this is something that I see that is so funny to listen in Croatian government when they think that this is in their control. Because when people realize that, when, for example, look at Luxembourg, they're a small country in the middle of Europe, and they're making the most out of it. Look at Malta. Malta doesn't have any natural resources. They found, they innovated their way to have the fastest growth of GDP, I don't know how many years in a row in the EU. And look at the US growing, and Germany growing because of immigrants, because they attract a lot of people. And that's what's going to happen, and that is happening to Croatia. That it's not acting as a business. It's not trying to attract people to generate revenue, to pay taxes in Croatia. And when people realize they can just use the other business for this service, they'll just move and live wherever they want. And the world is not getting, less digitized. The future will be, you will literally lie in your bed, you look at your phone when you wake up, you will see a next job waiting for you. You will put on your, VR goggles. You will work for 3-4 hours if you want, and you will continue your life. It's not like you will depend on being in the office or being in Croatia or anywhere else. And it's not going backwards. It's only going forward. It's just a matter of how quickly.
Okay. I think we were also innovated with my friend Buddy here on my shoulder, and we used every possibility of digital tools. So I think Sanja, Luca, Andreas, thank you very much for this lit conference. I hope you enjoyed it as I did.
And thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
And we have to say hello to our viewers who are actually with us all the time. And they had, Mr. or Mr. G said the biggest problem in Croatia is the people mindset. That's it. Okay, the government didn't choose itself, but the people chose them. Yeah, I agree. Okay, Daniela Jura said thank you. So this is all our viewers now. I think we have used his address here. Yeah, it is. He is. Okay. So thank you very much, guys. I hope we will have a similar chit chat together, and that we will have a successful program and talks as we had today. I think it was very interesting, and I hope you liked it, and that you have said you have anything to say more, Andreas?
Nope. Very happy. Looking forward to the next one in February.
You were speechless. That's a rare moment. Okay. Sanja, Luca, thank you very much. This was AirPlus Lit. It was excellent to see you. Hope to see you next month again.
Thank you, guys.